Seahawks come back with their third win in a row in this particular football game, and they did it on the back of how they've done it this whole season. They did it by playing as a team, by relying on all parts of the team to bring them forward. That is by design. Coach Carroll wants an offense and defense and special teams unit that are playing together. Not just the circle of toughness, the circle of the team. Today, as much as any, the special teams really won you this game in so many respects, didn't they? You had Jason Myers making both of his 2 kicks. You had 2 fumbles caused, which were really the game-changing plays in a game that was very tight from the outset here. This Giants team didn't just come into Seattle not ready to go today. They were indeed very much ready to go. They played it tight. They didn't have a lot offensively to come after you with, right? They were down some guys in the offensive line, down their receivers. They were certainly not at what you would call full strength coming into this game. We have to acknowledge that, especially them also having to play out on the road. Nonetheless, they gave you their best swing. And certainly, at least on the defensive side of the ball, they were able to give your offense some troubles throughout the course of this game at times. They decided they were going to stop our running game completely. They were able to do that. There wasn't a lot of room there for Kenneth Walker to work with throughout the course of this game. That then put it onto Geno Smith and company then to sort of carry the day and him to be the guy passing and throwing the ball. They threw the ball 34 times. They only ran the ball 25 times. And this falls in line with what you've seen from the Seahawks this year, with Geno Smith coming into this game already in this, throwing it at 55% clip this year, 55% to 45% running the ball. And that is because teams are really gearing up to stop the Seahawks running game first and foremost, forcing Geno to beat them. And Geno is then beating them. And let's not bury the lead on this one. Geno Smith played an outstanding game. I gave him a little bit of shade last week on that he had an okay game statistically, but there were some turnover-worthy throws there, more than we had seen all year. Well, on this particular game, in this particular situation, I would say this was not about him having any turnover-worthy throws. This is on the opposite end of the scale of last week's game, where statistically, it's very close to last week. But in this game, it's actually that he should have probably thrown for well over 300 yards. He should have had 3 touchdowns. This was a game where you had your receivers deciding to have some drops, some big drops on some big-time throws that were just odd and out of character. Tyler Lockett doesn't drop the ball like he did in this game, but he had a drop where he was down the sideline, wide open. Nobody was there. He thought the safety was going to come in. He thought he was going to get lit up, turned his head before the ball game. There was a drop there. He had another play where he caught it in the end zone, right over the top. He's got it into position. Geno just puts in the most perfect drop in the bucket throw you've just about ever seen. Probably his best throw on the day from Geno, on a day where he had a lot of good throws. That one was probably the best one. Tyler just can't get that foot drug in bounce when normally he can. DK had one where he didn't make a catch, where I think GK can normally kind of usually get to that ball and make that catch on that play, even with just the one arm free. Then you have Goodwin breaking over on a crossing route into the back of the end zone. Also wide open. Geno puts a great throw in there, and Goodwin just drops it. You've got to sometimes really look at the tape and not just look at the stats when it comes to a given player to assess their game. And so if I throw that tiny bit of shade last week, let's give him nothing but the sunshine this week to Geno Smith, in the respect of you were on it with your throws. There were no turnover-worthy plays. His decision-making was once again completely on point. This was a day where Geno Smith was going to get challenged, because you're going up against the defensive coordinator for the Giants in Wink Martindale, who is very much about the blitz game and being very exotic in how he runs his blitzes. That's going to challenge a quarterback upstairs to be correct in his calls, to get his alignments right, to not rush himself at the line of scrimmage, and not take the time to make sure he knows who's coming and where they're coming from and what he needs to do next to counter that. So when you look at Geno Smith's day, this goes far beyond the numbers as we have to do this season. His numbers are fantastic. I posted a video, I think 2 days ago, showing the kind of statistic numbers that he's put up through the course of this year. But with Geno, it's beyond the numbers. It's what he's doing at the line of scrimmage. It's the control that he's employing. And it's also the leadership. There was a play early in this game where D. Eskridge ran an in-cutting route, and it looked to me like Geno Smith made a signal with his helmet pre-snap where those receivers needed to cut off those routes a little bit shorter, not go to the sticks. Well, Eskridge ended up running the play to the sticks, didn't get separation on the play, and you saw post-snap, Geno point at him and say, this was the call. Right here, this was the call. A little later in the game, they showed a sideline shot of Geno talking to Eskridge over the sideline and saying, hey, this is what we're trying to do here. This is what you need to do, and letting him know, coaching him up, teaching him what he needs to do. You had another moment later in the game where right after Tyler Lockett has this key drop, and Tyler's feeling horrible about himself because not only does he have that drop, but he also has a fumble down at the goal line, which allowed the Giants to score their first touchdown in the game. And so he's just sitting there kicking himself. every which way but loose, going, man, this game's going to be kind of on me. Man, this is sort of a bit of my doing here with this. Geno comes right back to him, goes, no, we need you. I'm coming back to you. And what did Geno do on that very next drive? He came right back to Tyler Lockett, not once, but twice, including on the sluggo route. So when you look at Geno this year and understanding when we talk about him being maybe the quarterback of the future, it's not merely what he's doing statistically this season and how he's holding up his end of the bargain in that realm of things. It's what he's doing from all of the other aspects of what you ask your quarterback to do that goes far beyond statistics. We have to give a huge tip of the cap to Shane Waldron, who is quickly ascending now and seemingly out of nowhere now becoming one of the better offensive coordinators in the sport. He had a real rough road last year. Didn't seem like he was fully implementing his offense and the designs of what it was from back in the McVay days, which was strange to see. This year, you're not only seeing a lot of the McVay stuff with the Rams offense, you're seeing his own innovations brought into play, especially in the form of the 3 tight end set. But the creativity is there with him all over the map. He had a plan and a way to go after Wake Martindale's defense today. And the Seahawks, if they would have executed with the receivers catching it, it would have been even more prolific than it was at just merely 27 points. You could have been at 35, 40 points if it fit to the designs the way that Waldron had sort of drawn it up, so to speak. But every play he seems to be at this point this year a little bit ahead of the defensive coordinators. He's always that one little step ahead of versus where they are. And how he's employing this stuff, the Will Disley play at the goal line, for instance, where you've not seen a pitch play inside like that to Disley as he's coming inside. Disley, if I'm a Giant player, knows and watching that tape that Disley, when he comes inside like that, is coming in to lay a wham block inside. Instead, on this one given moment, because they're near the goal line and because Waldron knows, if I just throw that as a pitch play inside, that's an easy touchdown almost right there. That gives us the easy first down that we need, I should say, on that play, because we only need about 1.5 yards. He just brings those into bear over and over again. Or let's take the sluggo route to Tyler Lockett, the stop-and-go route that he got the touchdown on. That's taking advantage of the fact that the Giants' defenders in zone coverage, they're not going to run the loose zones that the Seahawks defense will sometimes employ. They're going to run the tighter zones because of the fact that they're running the pressure looks on the front side. If I run pressure looks, I got to run tighter in coverage. Waldron understands this is what they're attempting to do. So he's okay, we'll take advantage of that. We'll run a little stop route. The corner will come in on that stop route and try to close ground so he can take away the completion, and then we'll just run the sluggo over the top. Make sure you have a mass protect on the front side with Geno to give him time to be able to set up and make that throw, which they did. It's there and it's wide open on that moment. That's great offensive play calling by your coordinator. And today throughout, I thought he was just solid in it. He wasn't just trying to bang his head into the wall with Walker, right? Many people were calling for us to run in this game. You have the Giants coming into this game 30th in the NFL against stopping the run. So many people going, we got to run this game. We got to run this game. But the Giants were amped up to stop the run. Did Shane Waldron just go, let's just keep hammering our head into this wall, going nowhere fast? No, let's let Geno throw. Let's go up against the weakness of the defense. Let's take what they're giving them. Yes, that sounds so straightforward and easy to do at times, but we've seen in our offense in recent years that not always be the case. The straight, simple forward thing to do is the thing that we lean away from. Well, Waldron leaned into it today in a big way. So we've got to continue to give him props as he does continue his ascent here as one of the better offensive coordinators in the league here, and especially what he's doing this season. Seahawks have been just marvelous on the offensive side of the ball. Tackles held up well again today. Give them their props. Certainly, Thibodeau's out there. You know, he can be a little bit of a troublesome guy. You got Williams in the middle for the Giants defense. They're not necessarily stacked up there from the front side standpoint of things, but they're good and they're solid and they could give you some troubles. The tackles continue to hold up well. The interior continued to hold up really well in this football game. Defensively speaking, the Seahawks defense just continues to come on. I don't know what Carroll does in his recipe for these defensive turnarounds, as this will now be the third year that we've seen a defense start out really slow, in a horrific shape, in just what's going on. You can't stop anything, can't stop the run, can't stop the pass, can't generate pass rush, can't get turnovers, to then suddenly turning everything around and finding a fix to almost all of that. I don't know how they do it. It speaks to Coach Carroll's greatness as a coach that he's able to find that adjustment within it. I'll give Clint Hurtt a lot of credit with it. Desai give it credit where this is what you want coaches to do, is to find adjustments, to find ways to put the players in a position to succeed. And that's what they're doing here with this defensive scheme. They've gone away from the wonky 4-man fronts where you had the two interior defensive tackles aligned really close and then the outside linebackers really far apart. Now it's just more of the 3-4 stuff, more of the traditional what you thought you were going to expect from him. And that's done a good job, I feel like, hemming up the run game especially. Saquon Barkley ran awesome today. This is another one where the statistics don't speak the whole story of how he played against your Hawks today. It was not like, he was falling down or just looking for the big play everywhere. He had 20 carries for 53 yards, but he really had a game that was like a guy running for 100 yards in how well he run and fighting through tackles and finding space when there wasn't space. But it was the Seahawks in containing him and not letting him get that big play that was the big key in stopping Saquon. He can be that 3-yard, 4-yard, 3-yard guy and then get you that 45, 50-yard gain. And the Seahawks did not allow that to happen today defensively. That's on everybody. That's everybody keeping their gap integrity. That's not just on one guy being one particular monster there along the way. The quarters on the outside, Tariq Woolen and Michael Jackson Jr. continue to hold up really well. Do we see these guys give up big plays? Do you see them getting beat over the top? No, you don't. You also don't see them usually getting slowly bled underneath because they're trying to stay clean over the top as well. Both of them had maybe a catch or two that they gave up in this game. But overall, I thought that they were very solid and continue to be very solid for you on the outside. Barton and Brooks, I thought, played a better game in this one overall. Both of them did both against the run and in pass coverage. It's good to see them take some somewhat steps forward. Seahawks weren't always able to generate a ton of consistent pass rush in this game. The sacks numbers will make it look like we were a little bit more avalanche-y. I'm going to use that word, avalanche-y. We were a little avalanche-like if you were to look at just the sacks statistic. But indeed, we were not necessarily really good and consistently generating pass rush with those front four. But when we did get home, we got home at just the right times. Uchenna Nwosu, we've got to give this guy a ton of props. It's been an amazing signing bringing him over this offseason as one of our main free agent signings. You signed him to a 2-year, $20 million deal at that time. Some of us were scratching our heads going, well, this guy gets you 5 sacks a year. I mean, the Chargers are moving off of him just so they can get Khalil Mack. I mean, what is he really going to give you? He has been great for us as a football player. He's been awesome against the run, and he's been very consistent as a pass rusher. He, according to Amazon coming into this game, that stat tracker they have for generating pressures, was leading the league in pressures coming into this game. I have to think that after he got 2 more sacks in this game, 2 quarterback hits, that he's going to be right up there amongst the tops in that respect as well. Darrell Taylor didn't look like he was playing in this game. I don't know if there was maybe an injury with him, but that meant Bruce Irvin was going to be out there playing on this field a lot more snaps in this game. And Bruce was great. He came alive in this game. Just very active, still very quick off the line of scrimmage, still playing with a little bit of that edge that I recognize from those old Legion of Boom days. At one point you saw him knock the quarterback back into the running back in order to tackle the running back. You then saw him on another play take a running back by his head and throw him to the ground. Just playing with a little bit of nasty stylings that I think is welcome on this defense right now. I think we could use a little bit more of that kind of play on this defense. But overall, you did a great job stopping the run. You did just enough as far as generating pass to make Daniel Jones uncomfortable. They were phenomenal in the first half. Giants were able to find a little bit of holes in the middle of that defense moving on towards the end of that game and through the third quarter and fourth quarter. But overall, the defense continues to play marvelous. And this is a defense who the first 5 weeks were last in DVOA in the entire NFL. DVOA being that stat that tracks basically defenses on a bottom line statistical basis where you take all these stats like yards and points allowed and everything else all put together and you distill it all down to this bottom line stat. And DVOA is a very important stat, of course, because your Seattle Seahawks are the only team who for 4 straight years led the NFL in DVOA since the stat's been created. And I think you mark it from 2012, 13, 14, and 15, I believe. So what's interesting about this stat is your Hawks were last defensively through the first 5 weeks of the season in DVOA. Through the last 3 weeks, they're going to now be number 1. They were number 1 through the last 2 weeks, but on the back of this defensive performance today, they'll be now number 1 for the last 3 weeks in a row. That is a phenomenal turnaround. That's like a Geno Smith career-like turnaround to pull that off in merely 3 weeks and be at that kind of level, going from literally worst to first. I don't know how they've done it outside of just tossing away those 4-man fronts, getting Darrell Taylor a little bit more off the football field on early rundowns so teams can't attack him. But whatever they're doing, it's a phenomenal turn on the Seahawks defensive coach's standpoint, and we've got to give them a ton of props. Really now the discussion's got to be going forward here of two items. Do we have to start to really think about Geno Smith here in the long term? And that's going to be a debate to be had, I think, throughout the course of the whole rest of the season. But it's one that has to go from being, this is a 1 year off kind of guy to now we've really got to start looking at this in real serious terms, whether or not this is maybe the smarter approach, because he is playing the position so well. He's giving you everything you could want and more from the quarterback position. He's even got the mobility aspect that he provides that we saw at the end when he got that key first down to finish things off. And I think it's going to be a fun debate that I'm going to get to see within my chat out there in the Seahawks fan base. But it is one that I'm going to be more and more open to if he can continue to play like this. And I was a guy very much against it, saying, no, stick to the blueprint, stick to the model, stick to the 2012 blueprint where you get the super team built and then you go get that rookie quarterback on that cheap deal. But Geno's making it very, very hard to stay on that stance. The other thing that we've got to talk about going through for the rest of this next couple of days, especially and how it impacts this team, is the trade deadline. The deadline is going to come this Tuesday. The Seattle Seahawks are sitting on a plethora of draft picks for this upcoming draft. They could be in a pole position here to go make a move, or two even, to help round out this team in certain positions if they wanted to do so. The only tough part about this is that there's not going to be a lot of teams that are going to actually be willing to move guys. I did an article on my channel looking at and doing some research of those teams that are going to be in sell mode, and then those teams that have players they're looking to basically offload, who are then players that would fit to what Seahawks are looking for and their needs on their team. And those things just don't quite fit together right. So there's not a lot of deals out there to be made that stand out, that are straightforward and easy, no-brainer deals. Let's go make that deal right now. Nonetheless, you are in a position right now, if you're John Schneider, where you can go make that under-the-radar move. It doesn't have to be a splashy move like the Niners did with Christian McCaffrey. It can be a move along the lines of what you've done over the past couple of years. You had mid-year point a couple years ago where you weren't able to get any kind of pass rush. You had Carlos Dunlap languishing on the Bengals. You went and made that move. Didn't cost you but a 7th-round draft pick to go do it. You had a time where you weren't really feeling happy about your safety position. I think 2 years prior to that, you went out and took a 5th-round pick and flipped it out there for Quandre Diggs. So rather than looking for the big splashy move, we'd all love to see Roquan Smith. Maybe they go out and they just find that under-the-radar move to just help round this team's depth off at a certain position of weakness as it stands right now. Nonetheless, if I'm John Schneider, I do hope he is aggressive here. I do hope he does go for it here, because this team's first place right now, and nobody thought we were going to be here, and this NFC, in my opinion, is wide open. It's anybody's game at this point. Outside of, maybe you could point to me and say, no, the Eagles are truly the number ones. Yeah, they're the number ones right now. Are they going to remain at that same place throughout the whole rest of the year? Could they potentially be peaking maybe just a little bit early? That's the part I would wonder a little bit when I look at that Eagle team right now. Now they're set up to unload through the rest of this year. They don't have any major injuries and all that, but I'm going to still take my chances. I'm 5-3, nearly halfway into this year. I'm in first place. Let's go make a move. Let's go round this team off and see if we can't get even just a little bit better, and then just see what happens, right? It's a free season as it is. We all thought we were going to be rebuilding, so why not? Nothing to lose. And I'm not advocating necessarily giving up big, huge draft capital like 1st or 2nd round picks. I'm talking a little bit later in the draft, and you can sometimes at the trade deadline get one hell of a player for not very much as far as draft capital goes. But beyond all this, Seahawks played a fantastic day today. This is a great position for our team to be in. Feel great about this team, Seahawks fans, not only about the team that it is right now, but the team that you're rebuilding towards to be in the future and to maintain at, to once again be one of those elite teams in the NFL. We are going to be that much quicker, that much faster, because we can now know that we are sitting in good hands. We're in the right hands with our front office. We're in the right hands with this coaching staff. And once you know that that's on point, and that's the part we don't have to worry about, that means we're not going to go back to square one and work ourselves back from that point. We're far ahead of the game now. We're much more quicker to getting back to that elite status. Revel in that, celebrate in that, because that's the reality of the situation and where we're going into this future. How you guys like the sound of your, hold on. Let's just wait for a moment. Hold on. First place, Seattle Seahawks. Doesn't that sound good? Your first place, Seattle Seahawks. No, not the Rams, not the 49ers. Oh, you got McCaffrey? That's cute. Are you ahead of us then, Art? No, you're behind us right now. You're actually behind us still. We're in first place right now. Feels good. No one saw us here, and it feels good.